Good morning or afternoon or whatever time it is when I post this video. I'm back at the shop today. You won't see anybody else in these videos moving forward for the next little bit, except maybe my father, because we're going to continue to be hanging out with my immediate family as they live across the road from me, and so we'll be isolating together. And today we are going to be building like a key rack holder thing. This is the picture I'm basing it off of. But it's gonna look different than that because I have different materials and I just have a little bit different idea. And so we're gonna get into that, but before we do, we're gonna get into our shop talk. So if this is a portion of shop that you'd like to skip, go ahead and skip ahead. And let's drop back 2 weeks ago. All right, so 2 weeks ago, because today is a little bit different, how would you normally make money? Do you have allowance? Do you have a job? What do you normally do? And that's just get your thoughts flowing. Today's parable that Jesus told is found in Luke 15. And there was a man. Jesus tells this story about a man who had two sons. And the one son asked for his half of the inheritance. So this is pretty gutsy. He basically is saying, I wish you were dead, give me my half of the money that I would get. And so his father did give him his half of his money, and the son went off to a distant place, and he just spent all the money. He just wasted it on all sorts of stuff, gambling, women, all sorts of stuff that he just blew his money on. And then eventually there was a famine in the land. And so the money dried up. There was no more money left. And so he had to get a job. And his job, because it was a severe famine, the only job he could get was feeding pigs. And he was feeding these pigs, and he wished he could even eat the pig's food. He was so hungry. And then he realized that the servants in his father's household, the ones working for his father, they were getting fed way better than he was. So he was going to go and talk to his father. So back when I was in elementary school, I may once or twice, or maybe even a few more times than that, got suspended. And when you get in trouble, or you're going to be in trouble, you start running through ideas in your mind and how you're going to, what you're going to say to your parents, and what are you going to do is your "I'm sorry" speech that you're going to give. So this son, starts trying to come up with his "I'm sorry" speech and "I'll do better next time" speech type thing, and he's thinking it up, and what he's saying is, one sec. So I'm just going to read what it actually says here. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So this is his "I'm sorry" speech. He's like, I'm no longer worthy of being called your son. And like, he really isn't. He messed up pretty good. He basically wanted his father's to be dead, so he had all his money, and then he went and wasted it, and now he's coming back again. And so he was walking up to his dad's house, and his dad sees him from a long ways off, and he starts running towards his son, running right up to him. And before the son could start giving his "I'm sorry" speech, his father says to his other servants, "My son is lost, and that was lost has returned home." And he told his other workers to go get him a robe and get a ring and to host a feast, to have a party because his son had come home. And so this is again like the lost sheep one that I talked about yesterday, or whenever you saw the video, in that God searches for us, and he desires for us to come home. No matter if we go off and screw up and say, I hate you, God, or whatever, he wants you to come home, and he welcomes you in. He'll throw a feast when you come back. If you come to him, he'll give you, put a ring on your finger. It's symbolism of how much he cares for you, even after you've screwed up. And so that is our parable for today, and we're going to get into building. So if you remember the donation load we got last summer, I've been using some materials for that, and so I brought a whole bunch of the same type of wood to build these case holders out of. These were made to be into drawers, and so we're going to take a few of these, I think 5, let's say 5, and see what we can build. So I set this up kind of what I thought it was going to look like, and to me it looks too big and bulky, so I'm going to have to try and change my mental design. So that's what I'm about to do. I'm going to try and see about cutting one of these boards in half, narrowing it, and seeing how that looks. So I kind of like the look of it cut in half. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece here and I'm going to raise it up a little bit so it's about right there. And that way there's going to be a small shelf on the bottom. And my little hooks are going to go in here for the keys to hang on. And I think that's how I'm going to design mine. I'm going to let you decide a few different things, like the height of some of these boards that you put on, and whether you want this to go to the back so there's less of a shelf, or up a little bit so there's more of a shelf. So you're going to get to decide some of those things, and so I'm going to start working on putting mine together. The first thing I'm going to decide is what way I want the rotor grooves, because if you notice, they're a little bit different one side to the other, and so I'm going to put mine that way, out the ways, and these pieces go like, I'm going to put flat on the back and grooves out the ways is how I'm going to design mine. I want mine to be accurate on both sides, so I'm going to use some measuring how far up I want it. Mine is going to be 1 inch up for the bottom board, 8 3/4 up for the top board. I just realized the nails I have are too short, so I'm gonna have to run over to Home Depot and get some more. Took a lot longer to go to Home Depot than I thought it would with that lineup. So I got my backboards nailed on now, and I'm going to do my front board next. I like that spot. So now I'm gonna measure up about 2 5/8 for me. I ended up with a little bit of glue and stuff inside, which I'm taking a wet piece of paper towel. I'm going to be wiping that up right now while it's still wet. It's the easiest time to do it. Just like you, I ended up, well, probably like you, I ended up with some cracks when I put these nails in. Some of them are pretty good. You can see a tiny little crack on that one. But that's because we're putting in a relatively large nail into a hard board. and is just doing that to us. If we were here at the shop, we'd be using an air nail, which would shoot it in a high rate of speed with a much smaller nail, and we wouldn't have this problem. But we're not, so we're just gonna live with it. Okay, I got these parts all together. So now I'm gonna flip it up and wipe off a little more glue. And I'm going to figure out where I'm gonna put this board on exactly. So you get to decide where you're putting that board on. And I'm putting mine so it's close to that edge there, just like that. And so that there's an overhang for a shelf when I flip it back over. Just because that's how I want my design, but you can center yours. I wouldn't put it back any further than this board here, because that's going to be your back of the wall. But yeah, you decide. Put a little glue if you got it, and nail it together. Mine's all nailed together. Next step is to put some nails in for key hangers. And so I'm going to put 4 hooks on mine, is what I'm going to do. So that means I have to do some math to have them evenly spaced. And so let me help you with that. So our board is 14 7/8. I'm not gonna put 6, but I'm gonna do it as if I was doing 6 pieces. And so if I was doing 6 6 nails, I'm just gonna throw some X's, 6 X's, just to demonstrate, so I can visualize it. So I got 6 X's on there, and that means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. And so I need to divide 14 7/8 divided by 7. Now looking at it quickly, that's pretty easy. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. So that's 1/8. And 14 divided by 7 is 2. So it's 2 1/8 in between. That is pretty easy. Let's go with a little bit harder number. Let's say we put 5 key hooks on there. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. All right, and so we need to divide 14 7/8 by 6. That's going to get a lot harder. What I'm going to do is each one of these each number here has 8 8s in it. So 14 times 8. I'm gonna multiply 14 by 8. So 8 times 4 is 32. 1 times 8 is 8, plus the 3 equals 11. So 112. Am I right? We'll find out. And we have 112 eighths is what we ended up with. So plus the 7, so it ends up being 119 eighths. Next, what we're going to do is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. So we're going to divide 119 divided by 6. Divided by 6. Okay, so 6 doesn't go into 1, but 6 goes into 11 one time. So we're going to put a 1 there, and we're going to put a 6. 6 times 1 there. Okay, so 11 minus 6 is 5. Does 6 go into 5? Nope. So we're going to drop that 9 down. Does 6 go into 59? Yes, it does. It goes in 9 times. Okay? And so 6 times 9 is 54. So we then subtract that, and we get 5 left. And so 5 doesn't go into 6 doesn't go into 5. And so we have 19 and 5, 6. Because we're not going to a 100% accurate number, we're just going to round that up to 20. And so that's 20 eighths, because remember we're working in eighths now, which 20 divided by 8 is 2, with we would have 4 remainder. So 4 eighths, which then reduces down to 2 1/2. So our gaps are 2.5 inches is what it's going to be. And so what I'm going to do is first erase all these old X's. And mark it out 2.5 inches. You're going to go 2.5 and 5. 2.5 and 5. And then next one would be 7.5. And does it work out where it's the same both ways? It's almost a 16th off, so what I'll do is I'll just move it over a little bit. And then nobody's going to see the difference. And so that would be how I'd mark it out for 5. So you can either mark it out for 5 like I just did mine, using my 2.5 inch number, or you can do your own math and figure out how much it would be for 4 hooks. I'm going to do 4 hooks on mine. Now that I got mine all marked out, it's time to add some nails. And so what I'm going to do is I've marked my height and my the height of my nail and the distance across. And so I'm going to put my nails in on a bit of an angle. That way, when we put a key on there, it's not going to fall off. I'm going to start by giving it a little tap. So there's a starter point on each one before I try and put it in on an angle. I actually broke through, which I didn't want to do, so I'm gonna have to push that back up a little bit and try again on the next one not to break through. Mine's all done, oiled up. Make sure you sand yours up before you do anything else with it. Some of the edges are pretty rough, and mine turned out good. I hung it up here temporarily, but when you hang it up, put a couple screws into that board up there, and make sure at least a screw, one screw is into a nail, or into a stud, sorry. You can even put a screw in through this bottom board as well. And mine turned out quite nice. I'm pretty happy with it.